Hello and welcome to another Record Sport Facebook Live. My name is Daniel Caw and I'm delighted to be joined all the way from Istanbul by Record Sport's very own Gordon Parks. Gordon, how are you?
Daniel, I'm well. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm always jealous that you're always off on your travels.
Nothing to be jealous about, trust me. Look behind me. You could be in Springburn Road.
How is the weather? How is it over there?
It's nice. It's about 20 degrees. No wind. Perfect playing conditions. Just it's great to be somewhere that you can wear shorts.
We should say, obviously, you're in Istanbul because Hearts, the final game tonight in the Europa Conference League, they're out already. We know that, obviously. And tonight's going to be a really tough game. You would have thought.
I know, it seems like a long time ago that this campaign kicked off. Against a team which are on a different level. Turkey's team came to Tynecastle. They showed their class. They destroyed Hearts. It seems like a long time ago, and Hearts keep continually talking about learning curves, experiences, making sure that they're better equipped next season if they get back into it, which has got to be the aim. But it's been a sobering last 2.5 months for Hearts. It's been a real reality better for Scottish football in general. But for Hearts, great to have them back, but they found their level, and sadly, this is just a wee bit of a step too far for them.
I guess if they went in as third seeds and they've beaten the Latvian side RFS home and away, is that pretty much par for the course? Mesut Ozil plays for this team tonight. I don't know.
The problem I've got is that you delude yourself if you think Hearts winning against RFS, which for me are a good championship side. That's their level. Right. Now, Hearts went away and won in Riga, which is great because if you go away in Europe and win against anybody, which Motherwell couldn't do in Sligo. So you've got to give them positives for that because they went and took care of the games they had to win. They did. Right. There was a nervousness throughout that. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't dominance. They could have lost. They need to make sure that they go and do learn from this. Fiorentina are just a class above. Besiktas similar. They've got a lot of money. The budgets are huge. I try to quantify where Hearts sit just now in the kind of grand scheme of European football. It's difficult, but they'll benefit from this. But they'll get beat again tonight.
They've got. I was going to come to your prediction there, but I think you've stolen my thunder a bit. But they've got a lot of injury problems as well, Hearts. And do you think Robbie Neilson would just be kind of glad this is out the way, secretly?
Yeah. Do you know what? I've got sympathy for him. He spoke last night about his hunger and desire to get back into this level next season because there's been a trick missed here, and it's not only due to the fact that Hearts haven't got the players to cope against the best. It's the fact that defensively they've been filling gaps. They've been playing right and left backs and centre half positions. They've lost Liam Boyce at the start of it. He didn't get a chance to play. Snodgrass came in too late. There's been caveats to the fact that they failed, and I sympathise because they have had to go makeshift defensively. Craig Halkett's the cornerstone. He's a dominant figure. He's a leader. He's not been available for most of the games. These are big factors. I think any team who wants to punch above their weight has to have things fall in their favour. And injuries have decimated Hearts. So that's one of the things I would say, just to kind of couch against the fact that they've not been good enough when it mattered.
Even at full strength, it was going to be a big task for Hearts. So, as you say, decimated, it's now impossible. You mentioned there that you think they'll lose tonight. I said before we spoke when you were in Florence, I was pretty optimistic, and I said any team with Craig Gordon has got half a chance, and I said 2-0 Hearts. It didn't go that way, but what would your prediction be for tonight?
The biggest problem Hearts have is it is a dead rubber to them. They could probably do with this is a game they could probably do without. They don't need it. They could do with getting the days off to get prepared for Motherwell on Sunday, which is a bigger game for them clearly. But the problem Hearts have is they're playing against a team that need to win. And the danger is they go and this is an intimidating place to come. I saw the stadium yesterday. It's a big pitch. It's a terrific stadium. The problem they have is this is a team that are fueled with a cause. And the cause is they need to top the group. I think they're a better team than Fiorentina. I think they've got better individual players. They've got a better manager. And I think all those ingredients combined could make it, and I hate to say it, because we're now looking in the territory of, is it 3, is it 4? It could be, and it could be beyond that. And not nice to say, but it's just the reality of it. And I think we're finding out this game after game in Europe now for Scottish clubs. As it's trying to prevent the humiliation.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's not been another great week for Scottish clubs in Europe. Celtic last night in the Bernabeu. We should mention that. I mean, look, up against the European champions on their home patch, it was never going to be easy. And I actually thought, for large spells, Celtic created chances, just weren't clinical. It was a kind of weird game in that sense. But
Celtic fall into a category of a bit of exception to the rule because they have delivered performances. And performances have to be combined with finishing and clinical edges and ruthlessness. There is a naivety, there's an openness to Celtic. I quite like it. I quite like if you're going to die on your sword, you might do it with a bit of, principle. Yeah, there has to be an approach which at least throws a few darts at the thing. And Celtic have done that. You look at the Real Madrid game in Glasgow; they did more than match the champions for 50 minutes, 60 minutes. That's no mean feat. The biggest concern is the way that they get breached so easily, and I think there's still defensive issues. I think there has to be more pragmatic principles within the system, and I think again it's difficult for the manager doesn't believe that to be needed. I think he's still talking now about his approach will be the one that gains eventually the success that he's striving for.
Yeah.
I think they are the exception to the rule. I think there's been a lot of performances at Celtic at European level that you can be hopeful that you can build something around for maybe better, but I don't think you can say that with the rest of Scottish clubs.
And what did you make, Gordon, of the penalties that Celtic conceded? Do you think they were really harsh?
Well, let's listen. European football at that level is the harshest environment that you can get. It is brutally punished. You're punished for the mistakes. If you don't make them, you eradicate the problem. If you give decisions for referees to make at this level, and you're not the big team, they'll go against you. I think that's an example of that last night for Celtic. But it's a brutal learning skill. You've got to understand that's life. There were penalty kicks.
I know, no, you're right. I know. It's just Joe Hart after the game saying, "What do you want O'Reilly to do? Chop his arms off?" But I know I see both arguments. It's difficult in the modern game.
Daniel, look at the penalty kicks that are getting awarded across Europe. Look at what happened in last Sunday in the Celtic game, Saturday. You look at these incidents. Now players have to learn that the directive now is the rule. If it hits your arm, it's a penalty kick. If your arm's out, and there has to be an appreciation with players that you try and prevent it.
Yeah, and points-wise, it goes down as Celtic's worst ever Champions League campaign, but it doesn't really feel that way. Like, up till the Leipzig game at home, Celtic were still in a real chance of going through, but it's kind of almost like an opportunity missed, this group.
Yeah. I think the pivotal game was the Leipzig game away. Celtic to win. They were the better side. Again, you look back and you have to, I hate the word learning curve because learning curve tries to kind of smokescreen the failure. Learning curves. But Celtic, had they have been more ruthless, the chances that they created over in Leipzig weren't taken. But it's the legacy of the campaign. You talk about the points, but the feeling has been better because performance-wise, there's been a lot to be encouraged about, and they've got better players.
Yeah,
toe-to-toe with good teams in Europe. They've done that. They've just shown a wee bit of naivety, and if you don't take your chances, you'll lose games.
Yeah. Obviously, the night before, Rangers wrapped up their Champions League campaign as well, and they, as I'm sure you'll have heard, Gordon, they took home the tag of worst ever Champions League team in the group stages. When we last spoke, it was after Liverpool had won 7-1 at Ibrox. You were quite forceful in saying that you thought Gio should be sacked for that.
Yeah.
But he's under a lot of pressure now.
I don't think I used the word sacked. I thought he had it within himself to walk away.
Okay.
I think if you get that humiliation, you take it upon yourself, take responsibility for the. Listen, we talk about failure and losing games. Teams will always lose games, but when you're absolutely slaughtered, you have to take responsibility and put your hand up. Now it's happened again. There seems to be some kind of global focus on Rangers just now. Humiliation is global because it's significant in history. Champions League's been around for a long time. That tags an embarrassment. Problems at Rangers, on the pitch, off the pitch, they're clear, and they're clearly exposed by average teams. And I think that's the biggest thing for Rangers. There's no progress. I think they were a better side last season than they are now. They've been backwards.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a softness within the team, within the club, and I think the manager takes responsibility for that, or does he?
Mm-hmm.
Put your hand up and you walk.
I mean, Ross Wilson is another one, certainly in social media, who's getting a lot of stick as well for some of the recruits that were brought in. It definitely feels like there's almost, Rangers fans are really unhappy. A couple of months ago, beating PSV, they were back in the big time, but they've come kind of crashing down to earth quite quickly.
I'm not going to criticise Ross hugely. I think he's got a difficult job. I know him very well. I've known him for a long time. I know how capable he is. And I know how good he is at delivering when he's given the chance to do it. There's clearly a recruitment problem. And I think he would be the first to admit there's been too many failures. The problem with Rangers is bigger than Ross. And Rangers fans, clearly and rightly, will look to point fingers at people because the problem has to be addressed. I think you can start looking elsewhere rather than Ross, even though an analysis of his recruitment, especially his recent recruits, has been from Aaron Ramsey down. It's been poor, really poor. Poor decisions, desperate decisions. I think Ross will eventually suffer the consequences because the same way as Gio will eventually suffer the consequences because Rangers fans are not going to tolerate that. To go and get that tag is a humiliation and an embarrassment globally. It's a massive thing. It's one thing getting beaten in Scottish football and nobody really cares if Rangers lose a couple of games. There's a crisis within Ibrox. And that crisis stays within Ibrox in Glasgow and Scotland. This is global. It's big. I think the consequences for that, you can't just come out after it and just put your hands up and say, nothing to do with me. It is. People have got to be accountable for that.
I'm going to put you in the spot, Gordon, but do you think Gio will make it through the season?
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest problem he has is his team's not good enough. He's built a team that's actually poorer than the one that did so well last season. But last season's performances were masked by the European run, which was phenomenal. But there was a lot of poor last season. And I think this season they've dropped down a bar. And like I say, the European tag, it's a rock bottom scenario. And I don't think the fans will accept that. They deserve better. And there's no way the manager can survive if the current trend continues. And I don't anticipate a massive improvement because they've not got the team to do it. They're kidding themselves on. They're going to the market with players that other clubs don't want, that they believe are multi-million pound players. Not in my eyes. I don't think so. And I think that's been a problem for a long time at Rangers. The delusion that the talent that they've got is what it is. I certainly, in my opinion, is far, far well short of what they think.
Ahead of the World Cup break, they've got, I believe it's St Mirren and St Johnstone away and Hearts at home. And you would have thought 9 points minimum. Well, obviously 9 points is the maximum they can get, but they need 9 points going into that break.
They've got a lot of making up to do, and they have to go and do and deliver quickly and emphatically. And again, I don't think they've got the team to do that. I wouldn't back them to beat anybody at the moment. And the confidence must be sapped with that, which has been a routine now, week after week, European embarrassment. Will they get 9 points? I don't think so.
Okay. Before I let you go, Gordon, what's your plans then for the rest of your trip in Istanbul?
This is the biggest city in the world. I was born here earlier on. There's 15 million people in this city. It's the biggest populous city in the world. And even though I'm in Turkey and I'm in Istanbul, it's going to take me an hour to get to the actual ground. So I've got to go on my horse and cart, try and get to the stadium as quick as I can.
Nice one. Well, I hope it all goes well for you. I hope the bus journey isn't too arduous. And despite our slightly negative,
Listen, let's end on this. Anybody can go and throw a punch, and it can land and it can knock you out. Anybody can do that.
Exactly.
Let's hope Hearts put a bit of polish in what's been an absolutely awful week. It's possible.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Possible.
Yeah.
Let's hope upon hope.
Fingers crossed. And I should say for everyone watching, you can find us at record_sport on Twitter and at dailyrecord_sport on Instagram as well. Gordon, it's always a pleasure.
Daniel, nice to see you.
You too. Safe travels home.
Thank you. See you later.